Hey everybody, welcome to week 1 of a very Hyperdrive holiday. I'm Steven Zrita and I'm going to be doing the first tutorial of 4 for you guys. So the tutorial is from our video paranormal vlogtivity. David left us a comment on our website, hyperdrivepictures.com, asking how we did some of the ghosting effects. So there's 3 things that you need to know to do this, and I separated this tutorial into 3 chapters. You can click on the annotations below. The first one is going to be how we had the blanket rise up and fall while Wes was looking for the sounds going on in the room behind him. The second one is the effect of the pillow going up behind the bed and then floating and throwing itself at Wes behind his head. And the third one is the actual ghost blob itself. You said you wanted to do the effect of the ghost flying behind Wes's head. We actually did a tutorial on that about a year ago, so the third one isn't really as much of a chapter as it is an annotation that'll take you directly to that one. But I suggest you watch the first 2, just sit here, watch through it, and then I'll let you know when it's going to jump over, or when you should jump over. And then you can watch the third one, then you know the entire thing. So the first one actually doesn't have much After Effects in it, actually doesn't have any. The second one does, and then the third one does. So the first one is a very practical effect, and we're going to get started with that right now. So here's what you need to do. Set up your camera on a tripod or some sort of steady surface that won't move, and point it at your bed or whatever blankets you want to move. Then hide somebody behind the bed. Stick your arms under the covers. Lift the covers up, and then super quickly move your arms away, out and back under the bed. So the sheets float down with a really ghostly effect. Alright, so for part 2 of the tutorial, this is where we're actually going into the After Effects. I'm going to show you how to do the part of the video where our pillow levitates by itself and then throws itself because there's a ghost controlling it. Okay, so that's not actually too scary, but it's super simple. So what you do is you film your footage similarly to the way you did before on a tripod, and then what you do is just make sure you film a plate. A plate is where there's nothing moving in the background. If you look closely, we do have this chair bobbing around, but since everything we'll be working with is just in this space, we'll get away with that. Right around here is a pillow floating up. So what we're going to do is divide the footage to the point of where the pillow starts to come up, and that's right there. And to split footage, you go to Edit, Split Layer, or Shift Apple D on a Mac, Shift Control D on a PC. And I'm going to rename this bottom layer Plate. I'm going to take the sound off because we don't need that either. I'm then going to place it above our pillow layer. You can call it whatever, it doesn't really matter. I just like to know which one is the plate. And I'll even color it green, because maybe you have green plates. I don't actually. Green was a weird choice. Turn the eyeball off so the visibility is off on the plate layer. And we are going to scrub to when the pillow starts to come up. I'm going to go frame by frame at this point. And the moment where you start to see my arm, which is this frame, we're going to start this layer. So we're going to trim it over here. And I'm going to draw a mask. And this is really simple. It's just a technique called rotoscoping or masking. And all it is we are using this tool to trace around where my hand is. And the great thing about After Effects is you only have to do it every couple of frames, then it fills in the rest. So I'm going to open up my mask in the layer and go forward 6 frames. Let's see. We have this tag here, so we're just going to rotoscope around it, meaning it's going to stay there and my hand behind it goes away. Here's a cool trick. If you double click on a single point of a mask, you get this option and it lets you select the entire mask. You can rotate it. You can scale it in any direction. You can scale it uniformly if you hold Control or Command and Shift. But I'm using it right now just to move the whole thing over. And you know what? I'll also rotate. and then fine tune from there. But that's just a fun trick that took me way too long to learn. I used to toggle that by accident.
So one time I had to figure out what I was doing on accident that was making that happen. So yeah, you get the idea. You just go every couple of frames and then trace like that, and then you go in between the frames, see if the mask needs some fine-tuning in between. And then do said fine-tuning. And depending on the motion and the object, you'll have more or less keyframes. It just completely depends on what you're doing. So I could do this entire thing, but hopefully you get the idea by now. It's just rotoscoping. The next step would be to make sure I'm not messing up the bed. Even though the bed's not moving, you never know. So I'm just going to do a quick mask around the sheets. And then do that. So we have two masks now. One is set to add, one is set to subtract. Since this layer is on top, anything with add is going to cover up the layer beneath it. But we also want to get rid of the sheets layer and the plate layer in case there's any disturbances from the pillow layer. So that just means we set this to subtract. Open up both masks. I like to feather them 3 pixels each when you're working with 1080p resolution. Turn this back on, and boom, you have a floating pillow. If I scrub back and forth, you see it's moving all by itself. And there's a little bit of a fine-tuning, but like I said, that was bound to happen. So just fine-tune it. That's all you gotta do.
Alright, that's the tutorial. It is pretty simple, and this is the point where if you've watched the first 2 parts, the third part is actually in the annotation over there, I believe. Hopefully I'm putting it in the right place, but it's that video we did from last year to show you how to do the actual blob itself. It's just a lot of fractal noise and distortion. But yeah, really simple effect. I explain everything on that, so go past Steven, will tell you everything you need to know. We're going to be doing 3 more tutorials like this, so if you want to learn more cool effects from our Hyperdrive videos, or an effect like the Doctor Who effect, which Colonel Pepper has been requesting, and that's probably going to be the video next week. Yeah, that'll be our video next week. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. That's going to be going up next Friday, and then there's going to be 2 more tutorials the Fridays after that. So that's all part of a very Hyperdrive holiday. I hope you guys have a good week. Don't forget to like and comment with more requests for what tutorials you want to see. What kind of effects do you want me to show you how to do? It can be practical or After Effects-y. We did do some practical effects today. So yeah, leave that in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week. Punch it!